maybe what we'll do is we'll do my little brief, that's not brief. It might be getting briefer as I've done this over the years, but I'm going to give you the cheats that I wish I would have gotten when I was 8 years old. Some of them, actually, I was given, I just didn't know how to put them in practice. So this is the part where all you have to do is listen. I'm going to make you do a few things, and then we're going to see if we can put that into practice. You ready? Yeah. Okay. So I don't read music. All I really started out with was the understanding of what my 4 strings were. That was it. So all of us here, I'm assuming, know we have an E, A, D, and G. Everybody's here on that level, right? Okay. Here's how you break this down to where you understand. And this is a big thing that it's being recorded because over the pandemic, I have been writing a book. So I'm okay with this because this is basically my book.
Talking to you, camera.
This is basically my book and what I basically spent the past 20 years trying to impart to other fiddlers. So if you like this presentation I'm giving you, please go and buy the book once it comes out.
We'll put links in the comments when we post
Okay.
it. So.
All right. So here we go. This is kind of a little bit about what my grandma taught me, and then a lot of things that basically then made sense to me as I became a fiddler. First thing I'm going to tell you is that your ring finger, we're just going to talk about left hand stuff today for just a bit. Your ring finger on your left hand, if we're all right-handed fiddlers, is your boss.
Dwight laughed.
Yeah, poor Dwight. He has to do it all backwards. All right, have a look here. Ring finger. This is the finger that anchors your hand. It is boss of the instrument, and here's why it's boss. Wherever the ring finger lives, your octave is always below. Now this may sound like, oh yeah, of course it is. But here's what I find with a lot of fiddlers is that ring finger gives you this home position where you find your drones right away. If that's not in tune, it means that every time you do intonation work or any kind of fiddle practice, you're not doing yourself any favors. So the first thing you should do when you go home and start your own woodshedding is that you make that ring finger go into its correct spot each and every time. And if you're someone that plays partially out of tune, meaning that you think you're close, every time you try to anchor your ring finger and you're not in tune, you basically are not creating any muscle memory that helps you.
Are you talking about intonation or the instrument being out of tune?
Both, but mainly we're talking, I'm going to say first that if you haven't done any ear training or any practicing tuning, that should be the very first thing that you start feeling good about. Because realize every time that the strings are just a little bit out, how many of you have had days where you play really great and then you have days where you want to burn the instrument, right? And those days when you want to burn the instrument, chances are you got one string that's not in tune and that you're fighting, trying to get that intonation to work for you. So, ring finger, go home, start practicing those drones. If you're not good with 2 strings, your goal in the next year is to get good at 2 strings. I think it's called double stop in the classical world, but I just call it 2 notes. It's just droning to me. So if you're a fiddler here, let's do it right now. Find your G note, and in your head, get yourself knowing that that is a G note, so that means I'm playing 3rd finger on D string. Find that first drone. So knowing what I've told you, you already now know what your D drone is, right? So let's go find the D drone. Okay? And we all know that we have an A drone, correct? Let's find it. Okay? And then if we had one more string, which would be on the low side, that would be what string? Does anybody know right offhand?
C.
A C. So that means you need to memorize that low ring finger on the G string, that is your C home place. Yep, okay. Ring finger. Like I said, if you haven't learned how to anchor that, because we're going to build shapes right off of that ring finger now. All right? Practice hitting that drone. That's how you always know you're in tune. If you're playing that ring finger and something doesn't sound good, that is you. That is not the fiddle. All right. Okay. 3 basic shapes. You ready? These are the things that will make a difference in your life. First shape that you need to know, we'll just build off of that ring finger, is the 3-1 shape. That is what I call the power chord on the instrument. So when you, let's say we were going to play our drone for G. If you add the 1 to that 3-1 shape, you now have the big power chord in the middle. And that's your G chord. Just right out of the 3-1 shape. Here we go, hang with me here. So if we move that drone over to the A string and we play the D, and you add that 3-1 shape, you now have your D shape. And let's go one more here. Let's go down and find that C. Play the 3-1, you have a C shape. Now, if you've been kind of listening to what I've been saying here about how there's a relationship between all of this, and we're going to skim over this lightly, but out of the 1 shape now, you have a means to play with somebody in the key of G. I'm going to throw a little bit of theory. This is really fast because we only have an hour and a half, but if you were going to play a tune with someone in full chord progression, you would need to know a 1-4-5 chord movement. A 1-4-5 chord movement in the key of G is G, C, and D. So based out of 1 shape right now, you have a G chord in the middle. If you move to the left, you will find your 4 chord, which is the C. And if you move all the way to the right with the same shape, you now have the 5 chord, which is a D. And then back in the middle. So if you didn't know a tune, you didn't know how to play whatever someone was playing, but they told you you were in the key of G, here's what you have. Now, this is so exciting because what I'm going to tell you is all of the shapes that I'm going to teach you today, the same rules apply. So that means anytime you start in the middle and you know what your middle 1 chord is, you can move to the left and find the 4 with the same shape. You can move to the right and find the 5 with the high part with the same shape. Kind of making a little bit of sense. It's okay if it doesn't here, but we'll keep going. All right, shape number 1 was the 3-1, which I told you was the power chord shape. Let's do the next one, which is a 2-3 shape. And when you do a 2-3 shape, you're doing it in the high position, meaning that the middle finger is going to be in the sharp position and not the natural. So what that would look like is the 2-3 shape needs to look like this. So go ahead and let's anchor that G note again. And if you add the 2-3 shape to it, you now have the other part of a G chord down there. Go ahead and find that. So if what I told you was true, is that if this is a G chord, what is it in the middle? It's a D chord. You remember you anchored that ring finger with that D, you added the 2-3 shape, you now have a D chord. What is it up high? It's an A chord, you anchored the ring finger, played the 2-3 shape, you now have the A chord. So as I said before, start in the middle, D chord, go all the way to the left, there's your 4 chord, which is G, go all the way to the right, is A is your 5 chord, you now can play 1-4-5 and D, out of the 2-3 shape. Sound good? All right, last shape you need to know here is, there's actually more, but we're just going to cover 3, is the 1-2 shape. And I'm going to leave that, I was in the little D position here, the 2-3 shape. The 1-2 shape, you have the opportunity of doing a 1-2 high or a 1-2 low. Right now we're going to do 1-2 high. And if I have that linked with that ring finger on the A string, what is this shape here, this 1-2 shape? Ring finger is anchored on an A, which is a D note. I've added the 2-3 shape, and now I'm adding the 1. So what is this 1-2 chord shape?
What string you got? Oh, so your lowest note is this.
A. Mm-hmm. Okay, I've heard it finally. It's a D. What I'm trying to show you here is that these shapes are all linked. So remember, here's this D chord here that finds your D drone. Add the 3-1. Add the 2-3. Now add the 1-2. You can show them. What happened to that little one? Oh, okay. So I'm just going to write down the 3 shapes here real quick, and then we're going to look at them.
While Trisha's writing that down, I don't know if you heard, but they've invented a new whiteboard. It's really remarkable. No one got it. Okay, it's not that good, okay? Whoa, okay. All right, so that's all the jokes I have. Oh, I was going to do these shapes. So here's I'm not as good at this, which is why I've been silent the entire time. Here's the high one. Here's the middle one. And the low one. There you go.
Thanks. Okay, I know this is really fast. We're going to put it into practice here real quick. So your 3 shapes are up here, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to do a representation here real quick. Howard just did D for you. I'm going to show you that you know what I'm talking about here. Everybody find their ring finger and play that G drone for a second. Go ahead and get it in tune since we're practicing. All right. If that is in tune, meaning like you did your part and you matched your G note with your G open string, you know now do not move that finger. All right? So that means when you lay shapes down, you're going to lay them around this 3rd finger. Don't move it. So that means if you have a ring finger here, remember, you have a 2-3 shape you can add to it. I'm going to leave it. If you wanted to really enhance your practice, leave the 2-3 shape down and add the 1 on the A string. I'm going to show you why you do that. What does this sound like? What does that sound like? Anybody recognize what? What I'm trying to demonstrate is that these are the... Oh, well, that's not what I was going for, but when you close your shapes like that, which you know how to do, this is kind of the premise of doing seconding for Cajun music. So you already have now closed shapes that you can move around, and you should practice that. You should practice keeping your hand in position and hitting all of those shapes. All right, going back to this G, we have the G drone. We added the 2-3 shape. We've now added the 1 shape with it, so we have a 2-3-1. Knowing what I told you over here with the shapes, what finger can you play on the E string that you know now is safe for the key of G? Yep, somebody said it too. What you would need to know is that that 2 needs to be on the natural G. See what happens there? You guys just found all of your little landmarks for G. Do I have any aha moments yet? All right, remember, let's go back to D. D, got a D note. You can add a 2-3 shape. If you have a 2, you can add a 1-2 shape. And then what happens to that E string? You flip that index finger and it flops over there. Anybody see that? Let's do it for A. Find the big A note. You can add a 2-3 shape. You can add a 1-2 shape. This one's a little trickier. You can add a 3-1 shape, but you need to remember that it is a C sharp. I actually anchor all of that. How many of you are just completely lost? Okay, all right. Even though you're lost, how many of you are like, oh, I think I could get this if I had a little more time? Okay, that's all we're shooting for today. I've been doing this for 20 years, so if you were to get it all right now, I'd be a little disappointed in myself. Okay, one last thing, because now I'm going to show you how to apply this with tune chasing and how to apply this with seconding. So whether you trust yourself, you actually have everything that you needed to do to come up here and play a tune with Howard. Now, you don't know how to maybe apply it yet, but you have it. So what I was doing for Howard, he was playing a tune in the key of G, and I was using the 3 shapes down here below. You guys, can you remember that the 2-3 shape is actually a G chord? Okay. The 3-1 shape is a C chord. Yep. And that 1-2 shape is a D chord. So if you look at what I just did here, I'm going to break this down. Middle finger represents a G on the G string. Third finger represents a C on the G string. And the first finger represents a D on the G string. And have a listen here just real quick. You would play, we play just that.
That
Yep.
one I was just...
So remember, my job is to second and listen. So let's have a listen. Which one you play?
Shoulder.
No, play the whatever one we started out with.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, that's good enough. How'd it sound? One note on the G string, one finger is representing one chord. Now, you actually know what the other part is. Here's what it sounds like if you just do the same thing on the D string. Let's put it all together. Okay, here's also why this is important, because the shapes I just taught you, that's where your tune is. So once you realize that we're in the key of G, you're either going to be playing out of a 2-3 shape if you're down in the low register. You're going to either play out of the 3-1 shape if you're in the middle. And if you're up high, you're going to be playing out of the 1-2 shape or this little bluegrass shape that we didn't talk about. But that's where your tune is. It's based around these chord shapes that I just told you about. Your job is really just to figure out the notes not to play, because there's a whole bunch of right notes. There's very little wrong notes, actually. So that's just part of what you do with woodshedding.
Well, I've certainly found that if you become adept at having your fingers hover over those shapes, then you're right there in the tune, basically.
All right. I think that's probably like, that's probably enough for right now, except I'll tell you this. In the low register, when we did the 2-3, 3-1, and 1-2, that was all G work, so it's G, C, and D work. But if you do the same thing in the middle register, where you do the 2-3 shape, the 3-1, and the 1-2, guess what you have a 1-4-5 of?
D.
You have a 1-4-5 of the key of D. So you have a D chord, G chord, A chord. If you do the same thing up high, now what do you have a 1-4-5 of? A. So go home, like I said, I'm hoping, go home and buy my book when it comes out, but I'm just kidding. The whole idea with the book is to try to take you step through step. Like I said, I would have learned how to tune chase a lot quicker had I understood about how the shapes form the tune. And that's just because I came from a folk family. I didn't even know what a scale was, so you can imagine I just learned things and memorized them. So maybe let's what we should do is let's pick our tune, and how about we have you practice tune chasing, and then we'll teach it.
Well, let's just present it first.
Okay, which one are we doing?
I thought we were doing Morella's.
Okay, all right.
All right, so now we're gonna attempt to learn a tune or something. I'm not sure what we're doing, but this is a tune I got out of this old fife book from 1854 called Morella's Lesson. Anybody ever heard that tune, Morella's Lesson? No? Okay, so it's not it's kind of an unusual little tune. Funny little tune. It's curious.
This actually made me think of something else. One reason why we picked this tune is because if you haven't thought about shapes before, this one you're going to think a lot about. I realized at some point that people, what I call landmarks, I think are called arpeggios, right? Yeah. So we're gonna really feel that in this tune. But the other thing I wanted to talk about with tunes, how many of you have learned a tune and you've studied all of the notes and you're ready to share it with people, and then you hear yourself play it and you're like, that sounds nothing like David Bass. Oh, raise your hand. Okay. Yeah, yours might not have been like David Bass. Maybe it was, I don't know, Bruce Molsky. I use David because I remember years ago I learned one of his tunes and I was ready to play it and I was like, that sounds nothing like him. Nothing. But anyway, the reason why I bring this up is because I think a lot of us, when we learn tunes, we are so concerned about the notes that we forget that what is an actual tune? Is it the notes at all? It's the rhythm of the tune. And so one thing that I've done is that unlocking the left hand, where you're not thinking about the left hand and doing the chording, because that was all I was doing on this tune. But what does it allow me to do with the right hand? It allows me to actually focus on what the other fiddler is doing and try to mimic and learn different bow directions and pulses and swells. And that's how you actually become hopefully a better fiddler, is that you're stealing those kind of fiddle licks from someone else. Because those aren't things that we normally think of on our own. We think of notes as just being little saw strokes and they're either up downs or whatever. But if you listen to how Howard is playing this tune, it has a definite feel. We had somebody want us to teach porters, which we might today. How many of you learned porters and it sounds nothing like Howard Raines? So I want you to think about that as you're learning tunes. Remember, the left hand, there's only a series of things that you can do left hand that are way different than the tune. There are a multitude of things right hand that will totally change a tune, whether it's pulsing, whether it's bow rocks, whether it's rounding the bow stroke. All of those things are what makes a tune sound special. So as we learn this tune, remember, the notes you can go get later. What you should focus on is how this tune feels and how that fiddler is making the tune feel that way. So remember that as you're chording or whatever, maybe we can try this. I'll just give you an example of how I might approach this. Will you play it one more time? Verbatim what I see happening with the bow? Not at all. But have a listen one more time. Let's see if I can make this sound bad. Come on, let's try it. All right, you ready? That's good enough. All right. All right, do you get the point? One of them is just a simple soft stroke, which is how probably all of us would approach a tune if we were trying to learn it, right? But when I was watching Howard, I was trying to mimic what I thought I was seeing with his bowing and also what I was hearing. That, if I can impart anything to you today, is start watching your right-hand fiddler. People who I've admired over the years, they have special things that they do left hand, but it's their right hand that makes me mesmerized. It's the right hand that makes something sound like it's being driven, or that it's maybe being cuddled, or whatever it is. That's the hand that does all of that. Learn your secrets from another fiddler and how they're making that sound. All right? Okay, let's teach this tune.
Okay, well, this tune I really do utilize all those shapes. You can hear it kind of happening. There's the 3-1.
He's playing right out of the 3-1 shape in the middle. Actually, you know what we said we would do is that we would give everybody the opportunity to just try. So
Okay.
maybe
Well,
let's...
but this one has like some funny chords. I realized. Doesn't it have like an E chord or
It
something?
has just one.
Okay.
But I don't know. What do you guys want to do? You want to play? Because they've been sitting there a long
I know.
time.
Well, okay.
Whatever you. What do folks feel like doing?
I want to try it.
You want to try it?
The seconding?
No, I don't even say seconding. They should try tune chasing.
Oh, okay.
So it's
All
a
right.
good-
Well, you can
good-
always do the seconding.
Yeah.
And I'll try not to do it where I'm doing double stops all the time, because I know that can be unclear what the actual note is. But so I'll try and just play the note. So let's talk about this first part.
Let's go kind of.
Oh wait, am I just playing? Or am
Yeah,
I
let's
teaching?
just play. So this is your opportunity to try to use whatever I imparted, whether it was one thing or nothing, and see about finding a tune. There's no right way, wrong way. Let's just play. We're in the key of G. We'll play it kind of slow, and then we'll pick it up, and then we'll see what you missed when we teach it. How's that sound?
And I'll mention that the first part is sort of truncated. It's a little short, and then the second part's kind of long, I believe. You know, so it's a little bit funny in that way, a little different.
And I don't know if we have other guitars in here, but I'll play guitar. So there is one E minor in here, and so if you're a fiddler that knows that E minor chord, that will help you, but otherwise, don't worry about it.
This is a really old march, by the way. And if you want to know the theoretical hypothesis of the history of this tune, be sure and check out our Tune Talk episode on this. I know we have maybe just one person who's ever seen Tune Talk, but it's our ridiculous talk show on fiddle tunes.
Well, Bill's here, so.
Bill, it's the one I was talking about.
There's two then.
All right, here it is.
Nice and slow, and then you can speed it up.
Second part.
All right, I actually saw some people chording. How did that feel? Okay. All right, you start really noticing your intonation. Who's starting to notice their intonation? A little bit more. Yeah. Good. That makes me happy. All right.
Should I break anything down?
Yeah.
You know,
maybe let's
we'll
look
break a little bit down. A lot of times at workshops, I don't think it's incredibly useful to break down the minutia of a tune because you're really not going to get all of it. What's really important is to take a look at sort of some of the tricky parts and just sort of work our way through it. and then go home and really learn it, because that's where you're really going to do your learning. It's not going to be necessarily in here. And so we'll just kind of do a quick breakdown of the tune, and then we'll move on.
While we do that, do you actually use the bluegrass shape in this?
I do.
Yeah. Let's look at one other shape, because this. Go ahead and show yours. The 1-2 shape up high, that's a G. There is this shape. Show yours. Howard has got all 3 fingers down here.
No, 2.
Well, but I want you to keep that there.
What? But I don't.
But you're going to right now.
I can't.
I can't believe you don't leave yours down. So I was going to have Howard be the good pupil. So this
I was never that.
this 1-2 shape here, you'll have it here, which is this G chord. This tune utilized what we call like the bluegrass shape, and this little high G here, that's the little bluegrass lick when you.
I don't know why we really call it that, except a lot of times you hear bluegrassers hit that note.
Yeah, that's the, but yeah, I did it very poorly. But anyway, when you have a 1-2 shape that's low here, you actually want to kind of think about that it's really this shape. It's a 1-2-3 shape. So right here, did everybody see what I'm doing? It's just your 1-2 shape. And then the ring finger is sitting on top of the index finger. So you're not using the ring finger. You're not using the index finger. You just have it there. Because there's a lot of tunes that once you're in this shape, you're going to bounce in and out of this. Everybody see what I'm doing here? So right now this is a G. If you move it over in the middle, it's a C shape. And if you move it down at the end, the whole thing is an F shape, just in case you wanted to know. But you use this in your tune. You're going to use that movement. So those of you who tune chase in the key of G and you find yourself not really knowing what's happening here, it's this 3-2 shape that you're probably feeling. See what's happening there. You do a lot of that work. Okay, let's learn the tune.
Okay. Again, the first part's kind of short, so we'll just review that real quick. It starts with that open D, and then goes up to the G note. And then we lay down that 3-1 shape with our B note. That's just that right there. We go right back into that G shape. We kind of have this little C thing. That finger planted the whole time. You don't have to, but I do. The 3rd finger. And let's see, where do we go from there? So the next notes we start on the D note, and then hop up to the E. So we're going D, C, E. And then just walk down the scale. Repeat that a couple times. One more. That's actually the entire first part, except for one little note that changes when you repeat the first part. So here it is. Back to the 3-1. When we repeat the first part, we start on the D note and then go back into the 3-1 shape. Just that. And then we're back in the bit. So I'm going to loop that whole thing a couple of times nice and slow. B note. Sorry. Once more. Sort of makes sense? Okay, all right. Let's now, like a lot of tunes, this tune has a big chunk of that first part in the second part, so you already know a lot of the second part. But you got to learn this little funny, sort of classical sounding bit. Here's the bluegrass shape. So let's take a look at that. We're walking up from the B note, octave. Bluegrass. If those chords are too hard, here's the notes. So you don't have to hit that bluegrass shape. I just throw it in there because it sounds nice. It's not in the old notes from the book. I just put it in there. Okay, here's the, how are we doing on that? Maybe a couple more times. Last one. All right. Now here's where we're going to utilize that minor shape, but we'll get to it in a second. Okay, a lot of stuff going on there. Okay. So we're walking up from the B to the D and then going and kind of bouncing around on that 3-1 shape. Oh no. No, that's not that 3-1 shape. That's totally different. It's really, it's not.
This is the 3-1.
This is. But we've got the C note in there too. Just the anomalies of old time music, I guess. And that is a C, C, A, F sharp, A. There we go. Let's try and put all that together, because then we're going to bring back in that first part. And then you'll have it. Oh, wait. like this one. Whole thing. One more. Now the whole tune. D note. Second part. One more time. D note. Second part. All right, there it is. It is a odd little tune. It's not like other fiddle tunes, that's for sure, which kind of makes it stand out in an interesting way.
I'm gonna mention one last thing here, and then maybe this would be a good time to just take a small break before we start on the next one. One thing I want to point out, and especially after we went over the shapes, and I'm just watching, so don't be alarmed if I'm saying this and you're someone that does it. Once you become very familiar with that fiddle tunes they're laid right out of these shapes, you'll also start noticing that there is an economy of motion that you should be aware of. And when you learn a tune and you find out that maybe the first part of it is right out of this 3-1 shape, you want to start getting to the place where the fingers always stay put and you only lift them when you need to. So for example, I'm going to kind of turn so that you can see. Here's me using that open G to get in tune. So you see what happened there? Even though I'm putting that C note on there where I'm trying to voice it, I'm still leaving the dissonant of that G note there. Once it's in tune, there's no reason to lift it up. And so when you start noticing your shapes, especially, we'll do this part. How many of you find yourself doing? You realize when you do that, every time you lift a finger, you are setting yourself up to put it in the wrong place when you put it back down. So if you leave it in place, you'll find that this little barred chord here, once you get it in, this is your barred E. Once you have that in shape, you leave it put and you work around it. So there's a little bit of forethought that you'll need to start doing. But once you start realizing you're in a shape, don't pull the shape out. You're going to want it for something, whether you drone it, whether it's anchoring you to move to another string, leave it there. So that's my little extra.
Do we need to take a break?
Yeah,
Do
let's take
people want to take a break?
Let's take just a little small break. Yeah.
Short one.
And we do have merch. Let's talk about the merch. Anything that's colored, like has purple or green or red, those are the tune CDs.
Yes.
Yes. So if you like tunes and you like the double fiddles, those are the ones that you want. If it's a darker CD, it has tunes and singing. So that'll give you an idea if you want to go back and look. So.
And then we've got, just crass commercial interlude. There's Harding's there, one of the old fiddle tune books being held up. But we've also got Field Recorders Collective of Trisha's grandpa's fiddling and her family playing together, which is real nice and sweet. And
I think what we decided, what did we decide? That 15 for the CDs, but we'll give a fiddle tune away.
yeah, if
So
you buy a
something,
CD,
you get
we'll give you a fiddle tune CD.
Yeah, for 2 years we haven't sold anything, so we're tired of seeing stuff, so we want it gone.
Trisha does have the ability to take credit cards too, by the way.
What was the name of that tune?
Morella's Lesson. LLAS. Morella's Lesson.
And that's from a book?